to the Impact Ripple podcast, the go-to source for hiring and leadership made simple, doable, and fun for visionary female business owners. I'm your host, Ashley Cox, author, certified HR expert, and founder of Sprout HR. And I believe that you don't have to change who you are to be a great leader because you already are one. Join me as we kiss uncertainty and overwhelm goodbye and say hello to the tools and support you need to grow a profitable, sustainable, impactful team with more confidence and ease. On today's episode, I'm joined by Keina Newell. Keina is the founder of Wealth Over Now, where she works with professional women and solopreneurs to create new possibilities with their money so they can save more, pay off debt, invest in themselves, and stress less about money. She's passionate about her work and finds no greater satisfaction than helping her clients start managing their money with joy because they've learned to feel possibility where they once felt shame, guilt, overwhelm, and anxiety. When she is not coaching, Keina is spending quality time with friends and family and traveling. To learn more about Keina, listen to her podcast, Money Files, Wealth Over Now, and explore her tips to manage your money well. During our conversation, Keina and I talked about some of the most common emotions that come up around money, especially as women business owners, and how those hold us back. Keina shares her philosophy on building generational wealth and abundance rather than hoarding money, why creating a budget is liberating and can support us in spending money in alignment with our values and goals in life and business, rather than just trying to keep up with the Joneses. And she shares new ways to think about the return we're getting on our financial investments. And spoiler alert, it's not just about making more money. This episode is chock full of practical advice and inspiring mindset shifts, plus a few laughs along the way. And I can't wait for you to get it in your earbuds. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Keina Newell. And welcome to the Impact Ripple, Keina. I'm so excited to have you joining me for a conversation today.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So for our listeners, Keina and we met on Instagram, like 2019? Was it 2018, 19? Yeah.
I think it might have been 19.
Maybe. It was before the world went to chaos, right?
Yes.
And we had both
I
been recognized by Honeybook and the Rising Tide Society as part of their 20 on the Rise program. And so Keina had reached out to me and was like, hey, I see that you got this honor too. Would you like to connect? And I was like, yeah, sure. And like, we hit it off right away, right?
Yes.
been tight ever since, been such
and
good friends.
We've never met in real life ever.
No. Which is wild, and we both were in Mexico earlier this year, 2023, whatever year we're in. And we were closer there than we are when we are stateside.
Yes. But if somebody asked me like, oh, when's the last time you and Ashley hung out? I would probably actually scour my brain for a date. I'd be like, oh, we were, I've never met her in real life.
And so when we finally do get to see each other in real life, we'll be like, wait, have we done this before? Oh,
yeah.
Maybe.
I think we also need to discuss important questions like how tall are you? Because I had a client, she like just recently had a baby and she was telling me, she was like, yeah, my body, I'm so short. And I was like, how tall are you? She's like, I'm 4'11". I said, I'm so glad I know that. Because otherwise when I met you, I'd be like, oh my God, you're so short. And I said, anyways, I'm going to say that when I do see you in person. I didn't know you were that little.
Well, I don't have much on her, 5'2".
Okay. I can manage that. That's like my mom's height. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, now that everybody knows how tall I am, how tall are you?
I'm 5'6".
Okay. So you got 4. I can almost reach that with some heels.
Yeah.
Those are some big heels though. And I don't wear those anymore. But I'm so glad to have you here because we get to have some really amazing conversations all the time about life, about business, about money.
Yes.
And since we were doing a Money Month series, I mean, obviously I was like, Keina has to come and be on the show because you're one of the people I talk to consistently about money and the thoughts that come with it and the feelings and the emotions and the experiences that we have. And I thought, who better to join our money series than the person I spend so much time talking about money. And the funny thing is that you didn't start out as a financial coach, which is kind of starting to be a theme here. So last week we had Christine Walsh on the show, who's my financial coach, and she talked about how she started off in a totally different career path, and then came to be a financial coach, and now we have you on the show. And so I'd love for you to tell a little bit about your background and how you came to be doing this work, because it is so important and you do such a brilliant job with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the theme for my life is that God has a sense of humor. That's just what I tell everyone. Because I actually went to college for management and finance, and then I became a teacher. So I did Teach for America. I taught and was a vice principal for over a decade. And then in 2018, like I decided I was going to go up to be a principal for a school. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm just quitting my job. I have money in savings. I'm going to start a business. Crickets, like for myself, right? But that summer I started a financial coaching business, and I wouldn't like, when I look back to all the things in my life, they clearly put me here. But I like was answering, those questions of like, oh, if you could do anything for free, what would you do? And like I am the person that always talks to my friends about money. They're like, we can't have a conversation without talking about money. And
Always.
and I was talking to my financial advisor, and I was like, I don't want to do what you do, but like I want to help people on like the budgeting aspect, especially like thinking about where I am generationally. Like I think there's a lot of like people that kind of sit in the middle of like, okay, we're supposed to like buy a house, you're supposed to save for retirement, I have all these student loans. And so those are like my struggles in in my 20s. And so yeah, I like heard a podcast. I heard this guy talking about financial coaching, but then earlier that year, surely enough, I was like in church, and I don't know what the pastor was talking about. I don't think I was taking notes on something else. But what came out of that was I actually like created this like budgeting series that I told like me and one of my girlfriends that majored in accounting when we were in college. I was like, oh, we should do this. And so from like March of 2018, fast forward to that summer, I was like, oh my goodness, like I like have an outline for something that I could do. And yeah, that's how I fell into this space. But I feel like I've always been in a position, especially with being a vice principal and a teacher, that my main thing I always wanted to do in life was help people. And so like financial coaching is just another way to do that and being able to have an impact in people's lives. So yeah,
I love that. I love that. And I love kind of your whole philosophy around, money and generational wealth and helping people move forward past, experiences that they've had, or, maybe it's been generational debt or poverty or things like that. Can you share a little bit more about that with our audience? Because I think that that's such an important key to what you're doing.
yeah, I mean, I think that like what people don't understand is that money is emotional. I feel like there's a lot of things that like when you listen to the narrative about finances, it is you should be doing these things. And so
Mm,
I think that's what people adopt. But there's never nobody's like ever saying like, hey, like stop and think about like how you experience money as a kid, or what are the roadblocks that get in the way of you feeling like you can save or pay off debt. Like there's not that level of emotional support.
mm,
And so when I am thinking about like working with clients or even talking with people about like what they want to shift, like I love being able to talk about like what does this mean for you, but also like the people around you,
mm,
or what has happened in the past that like has positioned you to be in this place, because there are so many other events that actually bring us to where we are when we think about our finances. Like it's not about balancing a checkbook, which is like what they taught us in school.
mm,
um so I think it's just very important for people to recognize that, because I don't want people to and we talked about this a little before we started to jump on and have this conversation, to be entering into this conversation with like fear and shame, which is naturally how they come. Like I want them to know there's like a root cause to how you think and you manage your finances, and it has nothing to do with your ability to add or subtract. Like it's not about being good with math. Like it's about your experiences and how those
mm,
have shaped you. And so I think when you can take the emotion out of money, it allows you to actually move forward and being like, oh, okay, like this is like a picture that I can paint for myself. Like I can create a new vision of how I want money to actually flow in my life.
And just because something has happened in your life or in your past or in your family or your community doesn't
Mhm.
mean that that's how it has to continue going forward, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, there's so many different layers to this. And actually, when you said that you and I talk about money all the time, I think about when I met you and I was like, you could be making so much more money.
Yes, you did.
Like I had also only made $2 at the time, but I was like,
Right.
per my calculations, you could be making more money. And so I just think about because like the money conversation comes up, I think most oftentimes in saving and like
Mhm.
paying off debt, but it's also in earning. Like, and especially with women, like with
Mhm.
women, we're consistently under earning, even as entrepreneurs, because of how we think about money.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, we're culturally as women conditioned to
Hmm.
be savers, to be frugal, to
Hmm.
make ends meet, to, the husband or the spouse brings home the bacon and we have to figure out how to fry up some and freeze some and save some for later. And, it's kind of that evolution that women are really still very brand new to the workforce, to making money, to being able to have financial control. I mean, even, just to being able to have a credit card as recently as the 70s,
Yeah,
you
or just
know?
like being able to like, right? Like, could you buy a house, right? Or
Mhm.
like you needed your husband to do different things,
Mhm.
like the role of men. I was reading an article recently because I did a podcast on my podcast about like patriarchy with another
Mm.
woman, and we were talking about how um, when you look at information that is, speaking to men versus speaking to women, it is about women saving money. But
Mm.
when they're talking to men, they're talking to them about investing and like businesses and growth, right?
Mm.
And
Mhm.
so women, I think, have more of, for lack of a better word, like scarcity and like a hoarding kind of mentality, where with men, you're thinking about like taking risk. And
Mm.
so, if you think about taking risk, like it could be leveraging debt, it could be, put in $100 and you potentially are going to get $100,000, but like this is the game you should be playing. And so, just like the knowledge and awareness of that is can be like really, really liberating when you think about your own financial situation.
Oh, 100%. And that comes up so much with women and as business owners when we think about growing our business and like you said leveraged debt. I know that
Mhm.
I've always been someone who's like, no, debt is so bad, that's terrible. And over the years I've learned debt in moderation, debt for, intentional purposes, debt for reaching goals is actually okay and it's
Mhm.
safe. And so I think there's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of scarcity, there's a lot of feelings of um, lack of security, lack of safety that comes with that. And one of the things that I think really holds a lot of women back from hiring employees and growing their teams and growing their businesses is the scarcity, is are these emotions. So what other emotions are you seeing, especially, with business owners, women business owners who are starting to grow their teams?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of fear. Like, I
Mm.
think that's the number one thing, especially when you're thinking about income as you think about it from one month to another. A lot of business owners talk about how their pay fluctuates.
Mm.
And like I can't trust that I'll make the same amount of money, or I have these launches. And for me, I'm like, you're not really saying anything that's meaningful.
Just telling it like it
Like,
is.
you can solve for it, right? Like, it's a
Mhm.
solvable problem. Like,
Mhm.
yes, there is a month where you may have $20,000 and another month where you have 5 or another month where you have 12. But, like, when you actually know your numbers in your business, like, you can actually look at the trends and see like, "Oh, like, on average, I do this," or on average, this is kind of what's happening in my business in this quarter or that quarter. Like you can prepare
Mm.
and start to make plans based off of what you see happening in your business. But yeah, I just see a lot of fear. And so um, then people use their fear to make decisions. And so they may not grow or they may not take risk because of the fact that they're scared.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And
Yeah.
there's study after study after study that shows that women wait way longer to hire help in their business than men. And a lot of times I think again that comes back to that gender conditioning, the societal expectations that, well, we should be able to do it all. We should be able to do it on a
Mhm.
shoestring budget. Oh, you're asking for help. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
there's a lot of hard, feelings around that. And I see that with our clients a lot. And one thing that you mentioned, Keina, was around, how it's holding us back because we're fearful. A lot of times our clients will say things like, well, I don't know if I can sustain it. And I think that's what you're talking about, when you talk about those fluctuating months. So you spend a lot of time talking about budgets. And I'd love for you to share, that philosophy with us, because I think that comes into play too, because people think like, oh, I have to budget for this. Oh, I have to budget for this. And it feels restrictive and it feels small. It feels like the opposite of, um, abundant. And so I'd love for you to share your philosophy, because it's very different than what I hear elsewhere.
Yeah, before I do that, one of the things you just said though about
Mhm.
hiring, and I was thinking about, and I can tie this into budgeting as well, but I don't think that people see the ROI of hiring or even just outsourcing, right?
Mhm.
And I think that that could be in your personal life or in business.
Mhm.
And I think that's another thing that we're not taught is being able to see, like, if I hire a housekeeper to clean my house for $100 a week, I can show up better as a mom, or I can show up better for
Mhm.
myself, or I can be more present, right? And so, like, do you make your money back from from hiring a housekeeper? Like, no, she's maybe not giving you $100, but when you think about the impact of that on other areas of your life, like those are the things that you have to consider. And I think that mindset shift applies to your business too, right? Like some things you may not be able to see like a dollar ROI, but
Mm.
when you think about, like, if I'm spending this $500 to hire someone or whatever that looks like, what's the return on investment, and being able to be clear on that. Because I think a lot of women, when we were talking about asking for help, I think the thing that I've seen also in clients is like not feeling worthy
Mm.
of being able to spend money on certain things. And so anyone who's listening, like, if you're looking to invest, whether it's in hiring or even like working with Ashley, right? Like you're so caught up in the number. But I think a great exercise is to think about, like, what's the return for you? Like,
Mm.
don't look at the dollar amount. Look at like what is the net positive result in my life of investing in this or not investing in this, because that'll allow your brain to make space for it. But then as we think about budgeting, right, it's like, well, this is why I need this in my life and I want to be able to spend my money in this way, is because these are the returns that I get to get for myself.
Absolutely. And I think we have to really expand our understanding, our belief that a return can be more than financial. It can be an
Mhm.
energy return. It can be a time return. It can be, so many so many women tell me, I'm like, okay, what would you do with an extra hour this week? Oh, I'd sleep in. I'd have a nap. I'd lay on the couch and watch TV. Like, you get to do that. Every
Mhm.
single return doesn't necessarily mean that we have to be more productive, that we have to make more money, that we have to, all these things that society and culture and patriarchal business structures tell us we have to do. If you're saving an hour, you better be doing something really productive with it. No,
Mhm.
my friend, go lay down and take a nap. If you are
Yeah.
tired and your body needs rest, like, do it.
Yeah, yeah. And like, it's just, it's so so important just to be able to shift that.
Mm.
And I've even been talking to clients recently about like blocking in that time on their calendar,
Mhm.
because I mean, and I'm very positioned to work because that's, I enjoy work, right? And
Mhm.
so I do have to be like, oh, this is an hour I can go on a walk, or I can call my friend or do whatever.
Mhm.
I also have to make sure I'm not using my avoidant behaviors and procrastinating.
It's a fine balance.
Right, but just like being able to recognize that those things are life giving. And so if you are invested in your life in that way, what's that return for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes.
I don't want to be 85-year-old little Ashley sitting in her rocking chair on the front porch saying, man, I really wish that I would have spent less time working.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody's going to say, gosh, I really wish I would have worked harder. Right?
Yeah, and I think like that just makes me think something I've been playing around with. Actually, one of my coaches, she did a podcast on like benefits of being rich,
Mm.
basically. And
Nice.
so one of the questions that my friend and we were talking back and forth about, and I promise I'm coming back to this budgeting question you
You're
asked
fine. You're fine. I got it. I wrote a note down.
But one of the things we were talking about is like, why do you want to make more money in your business, right? Like when you think about your business goals. And I think like that's really important for women when it comes to like making money. I constantly have to do that work for myself, but she was talking about the things that she's able to do. Like how did she know she was rich? But she's like, what are the things that you could do now that you don't have to wait to like make a certain amount of money? And she has said that. And then I would also like align this with one of my other coaches who was talking about like I think about all the times when I was driving to work at like 6 a.m. and I'd be like, if I wasn't driving to work, I'd be outside running, or like I would go to the museums, right? Like there's all these things you said you would have done. And so just thinking about like how those pieces play into like your rich life or what you think you'll do at 85, right? Like, oh, at 85 I'll be retired and I'll go to lunch with my girlfriends, whatever that is, right? Or play Jim Rummy, like at the nursing home. Like do that now, right? Like take a random Tuesday off and like go have a picnic with your girlfriends, just because like I think those are the things that have made my life feel like rich. And it's not always in money, right? It's like in these experiences and just being able to, I think, soak up also the benefits of entrepreneurship, like wanting to live a full and present life right now and not always delaying those things, because I think we have inclination to be like, oh, well, when this is in order, then I'll do this. So
this whole section, I feel like we should just clip this piece out and y'all just put it on repeat. Living your rich life, living the things that you want to do now, it may take some modification, right? It may take adjusting it to fit your current, ability, whether that's a financial constraint, a time constraint, or whatever. But, later this afternoon, I'm going to coffee with a friend. And so, this is Thursday that we're recording this, and I don't work on Fridays. And I think that's something that was really important to me as I was in the workforce. And I remember those days where I was sitting in my windowless office, like called the dungeon, and I was like, oh gosh, I wonder what the weather's like outside. And, it'd be really great if I could have a Friday off every now and then. And, then I started my business and I didn't do any of those things. And I stayed holed up in my home office dungeon, was like, wonder what it's doing outside. I don't know, Ashley, why don't you walk out there and look?
I have to be here at my desk. I got to clock in.
Right. Right.
Yeah. It's one of those things like, when I work with clients, there's a number of clients that I tell them to create like a joy list. And whether it's like on your phone or whatever it is, but like there's moments, especially like right now we're in spring, and like yesterday, perfect example, I walked to go get my hair washed because my salon is like a mile down the street. My neighbor was outside on a walk. She's like, "Ooh, I'll meet you." So she met me and like walked me halfway like a mom. And then I called her and I was like, this is the life I want, where I get to like have coffee, talk to my neighbor, enjoy outside, but like just like those things bring me joy. $0 spent, but like those things make me a better person. They make me a better business owner. And so I just think about like when, especially like in the money conversation, there's sometimes you can tell yourself, I don't have the money to do this, or I'm really stressed about this. Or like if we think about emotional spending, generally we're trying to create some type of feeling or get away from a feeling. And so the reason I tell my clients to have a joy list is like being able to like step away from the Amazon purchases and be like, go do something that you like enjoy. If it's like belting out Beyonce in your living room, like go do that, because your body probably needs that. It's not the clicking of the purchase, but you want to like shift an emotion. So what are other ways that you can do that?
Oh, I love that. And that kind of brings me back around to the question about budgeting, because
You
I'm
don't
wondering,
need one, just have joy.
no, right. No, but I'm wondering, as we're having this conversation, we're talking through this, are people trying to use budgets to run away or run towards something?
Oh, I think so. Yes. So here's the thing.
Yes, simple answer.
People don't budget because they think it's restrictive. Versus I'm like, you're living a restrictive life because you don't have a budget.
It's the ultimate dichotomy.
Like it's one of those things, because I think like if we think about like what could be called like financial trauma, right? Like people are probably have experienced that when they made $30 or $40,000 a year, they had a budget and they were really good at their budget because they didn't have a lot of money. And so they had to know where every dollar went, right?
Mm.
So then when you shift to making more money, you're like, I'm not going to have a budget because I don't want to be restricted. And
Mm.
so there's this like, you're attached to this former lifestyle that you had. And so for me, budgeting, I'm like, no, you get to like use it to expand and like build. You told me you wanted a house. You told me you wanted to hire someone. You told me like you wanted to be able to travel and you want to take annual vacations. You told me that you want to be able to contribute to retirement. So I'm like, let's like be able to put all these things like into tangible numbers to say like what would your life like need to look like do you already have enough money or do
Mm.
you want to make more money, how much do you want to charge for your services, or like how are you spending money in the ways that you value? So I think there's a lot more curiosity that we can bring to budgeting to actually be able to build, versus where I think a lot of people think that like budgeting is going to be about restriction and they're scared of what they're going to see if they do sit down and budget, that it's going to say like you can't do this,
Mm.
versus you might actually be so much closer to doing something. Like I have a client right now and she's like, I feel like I make enough money in my business that I should be able to hire a house manager, but I
Mm.
can't figure out how. And so like that's what we've been working on. And so in an account, she's paying a house manager and we've like talked about her quarterly distributions and how she's going to use that. But she's like having fun watching an emergency fund grow. Whereas like before, like, yes, her and her husband, they were like traveling, their kids have what they need. There's not been anything that's been taken away. It's just like brighten the lines
Mm.
on how she wants to spend money, and what she wants to spend it on. Like I love in one of our conversations, she wanted to do some landscaping in her backyard. And um, she's like, yeah, but since I've been talking to you, Keina, I'm like, do we even spend time outside? Like, is that where we want to be? Or like, do we want to spend money on something else? And so like, that's what, like just having a conversation around numbers has made her question what she wants. It's not about like a yes or a no, but she's like, I might actually want to use that money to do closets in our house because I realized we would have a hot tub and probably never be outside.
Mm. It's so liberating to be able to look at your numbers and say, is this the way that I want to use this money? Because I think
Mm-hmm.
we get so sucked into, uh, you know, material culture. Buy this, have more, do this, keep up with the Joneses. What are they buying? I should have that. I should have a pool and a hot tub and a tennis court and whatever things people have. I don't
Right.
have any of these. But I think we get sucked into that. And what if our priorities look different? What if our desires look different? What if it's
Mm-hmm.
not trying to keep up with someone else who has totally different goals and priorities? And we don't even know if that
Yeah.
person really uses the things that they have either. We're
Yeah.
all just sucked into this.
And it feels so good to know that you've made an investment and it's how you like to spend your money. Like for me,
Mm.
I could really care less about like really expensive clothes. Like they
Mm.
don't do anything for me. Um Mainly because I really appreciate my Viore joggers, which are expensive, but they provide me with a very comfortable life where like I don't know, I don't like need red bottom heels because my feet hurt, right? Like I'm just thinking about it as like
Mhm.
the red bottom heels are like a status marker,
Yeah.
but I am very clear on I don't need that status marker. Like, I don't need
Mhm.
money to go out in that way. Versus, I'd be like, but you do need these Vuori joggers, and let me buy all of you a pair because you need to experience the soft, lush cotton against your legs. Like it's
Love
just,
this example so much.
but it's just one of those things, right? Like, but
Mhm.
I can respect my girlfriends that like
Mhm.
they like the Vuori joggers.
Mhm.
They have a YSL bag, and I'm like, I'll get a bag from DSW, whatever. I won't even know where the bag is, and like, I don't know, next year. Um, but it's all just about different priorities, and
Mhm.
one's not good, one's not bad. It's like that's just not what I value. And my
Mhm.
friends would be like, I'm not spending $100 on joggers. And I'm like, why not? They're amazing. Go
Mm.
ahead, go get your Target joggers that you're gonna replace in
Mhm.
2 months.
I
Like
know. And Keina, you have sent me this Viore link for joggers, and I still have not made the purchase, but
Listen, it's fine.
I
I'll get
know.
you to do it the next
I
time you
know.
hit a
Probably.
milestone in your business. I'm like,
Probably.
this is very important,
This is you
very
deserve
important.
you deserve cozy Viore joggers, okay?
But like, I think a great thing for people to do, and I generally talk about this with business owners, but I think you can do it on personal or with business expenses, is making like a hell no and a hell yes investment like list. So
Hmm.
like, what are the things that you always want to invest in? And so like, I started doing that when I was thinking about what programs I was investing in when I started my business, because generally speaking, I was like looking for like a silver bullet, and there's no such thing. And
There's not
so, but
anywhere.
it's nice when you realize like, oh, I'm not a person who can buy a program and trust myself really to finish the whole thing. Like, I want to work with a one-to-one
Mm,
coach, right? So like,
mhm.
that could be on your hell no, hell yes investment list. Or I think in your personal life, you might be like, I'm not going to allow myself to buy like shoes that are on sale unless I like already have a relationship with the shoes, because I realize that like I buy sell items and I leave them with the tags on in my closet. So I would rather save that money to buy something that I love, but like that's just you learning your spending habits and also learning about your purchasing behaviors and how that equates to like 3 months down the road, what did you actually do with that purchase that you made? Was it an
Mm.
impulse buy, or was it actually like, no, that was like a really good investment of your money and you always want to have money to spend on those things?
Oh, and that's so good because it reminds me of, we were just talking about like guilt and shame. And if I have a
Yeah.
whole closet full of things that I never wear, never use, whatever, now I'm going to feel more guilty because I've
Hmm.
spent or maybe felt like I've wasted money on these things. And then what I'm going to do is probably go out and buy more stuff to
Yeah.
like make myself feel better. And then it's just this whole big cycle of like guilt and shame and then trying to, hide or stuff or run away from those feelings, which is feeding more guilt and shame.
Hmm. Hmm. Yep.
Not a fun cycle. Not a fun
No.
cycle at all.
And right, like it's just, I challenge everyone to just audit your life in that way, because I think you'll
Mm,
find a lot of things where you're like, oh, that's so interesting. I didn't realize I did that.
mm. And I think too, you can do this in your business, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are we investing in, thousands of courses or, whatever low price thing that's coming along? It's like, oh, it's only $20. Oh, it's only $30. Oh, it's only, okay, all those things add up. And are
Yeah.
they adding value? Are they, driving some sort of return on investment, whether that's money, time, energy, whatever? And then where are we not able to invest that money? Maybe we
Mhm.
can't invest that money in team because we've spent it on a bunch of stuff we don't need or use or really even want. Maybe
Yeah.
we don't spend it on, um, you know, payroll or wages, at a level that we feel is really generative and that's, a good wage for somebody. Maybe we don't spend it on benefits or healthcare options or,
Yeah.
the thousand other things that you're like, okay, I want to build an amazing team. I want to have an amazing team culture. And I'm going to spend my money over here in these areas that don't directly align with that vision or that goal that we might have.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I think going through your expenses and just realizing, what do I want to keep? What do I want to cancel? What do I want to revisit? Is like always a really great way to just clean up and save some money, because I think business owners definitely, it's like, oh, Canva's only $10 a month. And like, or you sign up for a 30-day subscription and you don't realize they're still charging you for it, but you don't use it.
Mm,
And so once again, it doesn't have to be anything about guilt or shame, just like, oh, let me actually put that on my list to
mm,
cancel, which if you as a business owner have a weekly time on your calendar that you look at your numbers, like that's how you can make sure that, okay, next Monday when I look at my money, like that's when I can go and cancel these three things. So it's just something that you one and done, you don't have to worry about it.
I love that. I love that. And also, I think too, like if I do have to purchase or use a tool or system in my business, I am a huge fan of, can I pay one yearly rate and save
Mhm.
10%?
Yeah.
I'm going to be paying for it anyways. Can I pay $150 all at one time instead of $210 over the course of 12 months? Right.
Mhm.
So it's even looking at ways that I can say, ooh, I'm going to save a little money here. And where am I going to put that? I'm going to put that towards wages. I'm going to put that towards benefits. I'm going to put that towards my team, towards, maybe some fun outing or, activity or a retreat or an event or something that I want to host for my people, where I then get to build the kind of culture that I want to
Mhm.
have for them as well.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I know that, I've been in business for almost 7 years, and you've been
Mhm.
in business for about the same amount of time, right? Maybe.
Almost 5 this summer.
Yeah. Yeah. So do these thoughts around money, especially when it comes to like investing in your business and growing your team, do these ever go away? Like the
I think
emotion and the thoughts that we have?
I think that I wanna say yes and no,
Okay.
because I feel like you can get new flavors of things.
Mm.
Like what do they say? New level, new devil kinda thing?
Yep.
Um, and I noticed that a lot in, like, other areas of my business where I'm like, "Oh, here we go again," right? Like, um, but I think about, like, for myself, I can use myself as an example. When I started my business, and, like, the drama that I had over pricing and, like, I
Mm,
need to make sure that people can afford me, whatever that means. And then, like, also thinking about, how much money I thought I could earn. Like, when I first started, I just wanted to, like, replace my salary.
mm,
And, I remember another woman asking me what would happen if you made more, and I was like, "Well, obviously, I mean, I don't know. Is that possible? Hmm."
mm.
And so, like, I had to do that work for myself, and I
Yeah.
like, when I left education, I was making about, like, 110, 115, and so, like, yeah, I was just like, "I just need to make 110, 115." After I actually started to understand business numbers, I was like, "Oh god, I need to make a lot more than that." Um, but
Yeah, because it's not the same. It's
it is
in
not the same dollar. Mm-mm.
revenue and what you actually pay yourself are very different numbers.
Not at all. They're not even kind of equal. But, so, like, I remember when, like, my goal was to hit a 10K month,
Mhm,
and I was like, "Oh my goodness, like, oh, like, this is gonna be the hardest thing I ever do in my life."
mm,
And then I hit it, right? And it was, like,
mhm,
natural. But then I remember going to, like, the next, like, when I was trying to hit a 25K month,
mm,
and, like, some of the same feelings and emotions came up, like this, like, doubt, and, like, disbelief.
mm,
And so that's why I say, like, there's, like, this kind of, like, new level, new devil, and just you're kind of waiting, like, for myself, like, waiting for things to crumble and fall.
mm,
And I think the thing that does get better is my ability to recognize what's happening, or to be like, "Oh, that's funny. I know why that's here," right? It's like it's just this thought or it's this feeling. Um, so I would say, like, yes and no to your answer.
yes,
Because
and.
yes, yes, and because I feel like I think there's, like, there's some level of it too where you're like, "I'm not even worried about this thing, but now I'm worried about this thing,"
Mhm,
right? And so I definitely have, a stronger belief of, like, my ability to create money. But, like, if you ask me, like, my thoughts about creating $1,000,000 business, I'd be like, "Hold on now.
mm,
I just probably in the last year said yes to that thought," right? But, like,
mhm,
my brain is still trying to catch up with it.
yeah.
Um which, like I said, is just very similar to when I remember being like, "Can I make $100,000?
Mm,
I'm not sure. Let me see, I add that up."
mhm.
Mm. You know?
It's true. I mean, you really have to build belief around what's possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just playing with it, right? Like, my brain is very logical, and it's like, "Okay, well, if I charge this much, and
Mm,
this many people," right? And so you, like, can
mhm.
kinda go down that rabbit hole versus just being able to be in a space where you're like, "No, I just yeah." Like, if it was possible, like, who would I be? What would I be thinking?
Yeah.
But like, I surrounded myself with a lot of other amazing women that make a lot more money than me, so I'm like, "Just stay around them, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out."
Yes. Look at your friend circle. If your
Yeah,
friend circle has poor money habits, poor money mindset, poor, whatever around money, maybe it's time to up level and
yeah, if
and
you got
spend
people
some
over
time.
there, like, hustling, like, they have a side hustle, like, they don't see themselves as real business owners, no offense to them, we can still love them.
Mhm.
However, you need to tell them, "Listen, we got places to go, and these raggedy money thoughts you got, they can't go with us."
And that might be the quote of the episode. I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. This has been such a great conversation, Keina, but we're going to go ahead and, wrap things up now. So
I'm like, did I answer any of your questions?
you did. You totally did. And I thought it was a brilliant conversation. And I want to give you one more chance, right? I'm going to give you one more chance here. So it's time for our final segment of the show called Imagine the Impact, where we get to envision what it could look like for folks to take action today. So I would love for you, Keina, to help paint the vision of the kind of impact our listeners could create through one key thought, a takeaway, an action, either from our conversation or something else that you'd like to share.
I would say like the thought I want people to have is that when I make more money, other people around me benefit. Like, I think, yeah, like just being able to see like, how is that true in your life? Because a lot of the work that I do with women is about like, I'm always like, so are you going to make more money? And I just want you to think about like, who does that benefit? I think that and I can even say for myself that when you think about making more money, you're like, oh, I don't want to be materialistic, right? Like you think about those types of things, but think about your values and think about if you're making more money, what organizations you get to give to. If you're hiring a team, like how are you helping this woman that you've hired actually be able to support her dreams and like her beliefs? And so there's just like this like ripple effect to you making more money. And what problems you can solve because you get to vote with your dollar or whatever that is. But when you envision money in that way, I think that's going to allow you to do some of the things that felt really scary.
I love that. Imagine the impact that more women making more money could have in this world. It's really, it is that ripple impact. It's that ripple effect. And you get to touch and reach so many more lives. So all right, Keina, I know everybody's going to be like, listen, I need to follow this girl. I need to like, what is she up to? What is she sharing? I just got, a whole new perspective on money and finances and budgeting and all the things. So where is the best place for folks to connect with you and learn more?
Yeah, so you can go to Instagram and follow me at Wealth Over Now. I also have a podcast, and that's called Money Files. So wherever you love listening to Ashley's podcast, just type in Money Files. You'll find me there.
Please go and listen to her podcast and support it. She just, has such a refreshing take and perspective on all things money and finances and the way that we are in relationship with our money. So we will drop the show notes for Keina's website and Instagram and her podcast and all the great things. And I also know that you have a really amazing guide that could help people with some of these money conundrums they find themselves in right now.
Yes. So you probably got in your business because you wanted freedom and flexibility. So I have a freedom and flexibility guide that is just like helping you actually think about like, what's a personal paycheck I want to be able to pay myself? What are my business expenses? And so it's a Google sheet. If you go to the link in Ashley's bio, then you can download that and manipulate it for yourself. So you can actually look at your numbers in a way that's going to help you like expand. Because I need you to have some dollars in your pocket and know how you're using them.
That's right. That's right. And I love that it's actually an interactive document that you can type things into and it self-calculates. And, that really makes it so much easier because if it was just like a worksheet and I had to fill in the blanks, like it would never get done. Okay.
With your calculator next to you.
I would be like, I don't even know how to calculate this. Okay.
Yes.
Made it really, really easy. The Freedom and Flexibility Guide. We'll drop the link to that also in the show notes. So thank you so much, Keina, for joining us today on the Impact Rebel podcast. I know that this conversation is going to be so impactful and so powerful for the women that do tune in and listen. And as always, it's so much fun to talk to you and to learn something new every single time.
And listen, same to you. And one day I'm going to hire someone.
I've only been trying to force her to hire somebody for a while now. So, oh my goodness. Well, you will hire when the time is right for you. I fully believe that. But thank you so much again for joining us today. And thank you, dear leader, for tuning in for another powerful conversation with Keina Newell. Please go follow her, like her, download her guide. She is an incredible human and such a brilliant, brilliant person to have in your corner. And as always, it is an honor and a privilege to be here with and for you on your leadership journey.